So the first thing we're going to do is remove the support material from our peg. Depending on which revision of this kit you get, your support material will either be on the long side, one of the long sides of the peg, or it'll be on the end. But removing this support material should be pretty easy. It should more or less just peel away. See how I'm able to just kind of peel that off like this. So we're going to do that for the whole thing. Doesn't have to be perfect. The point of this peg is just to stick down into the ground, so it doesn't have to be super clean because it's going to get jabbed into the dirt anyway. But there you can see we've got our support material peeled off of that peg. Next up, we're going to take our valve piece and our O-ring and press them together just like that. So next, we have the peg and the base. You can see how these are threaded, and those will just screw together like this. There we have it. So what we're going to do next is take some clear adhesive sealant, and we're going to squirt a pretty fair amount of it around the threads of our water bottle. This is pretty important because this is the stuff that's going to prevent air leaks. This is one of the areas in the system where leaks can occur. So we want to make sure we get a nice thick bead of it all the way around. Then we're going to take the bottle cap with the gasket, and we're going to squeeze the sealant all around the inside there too. And this is a kind of a conservative amount. You can use more. There's no harm in using more. The more the better, really. The more of this you use, the better the chance that you'll avoid leakage on the first go. So we're gonna go ahead and screw these pieces together. And that really squishes all that silicone to itself. And just for good measure, I'm gonna sort of use this silicone sealant like caulk a little bit. I'm gonna kind of seal up the seam here where the bottle meets the cap. And again, you know, you can't use too much of this stuff. You can always trim it off later, but it's hard to go back and add more. So next up, we're going to thread our cord through the pin. This piece is called the pin, even though it's not pin shaped. You can see it's got a little hole running through it, and we've got our nylon cord here. So what I'm going to do is tie a knot in one end to keep it from unraveling. There we go. I'm going to come around to the other unknotted end. Just feed that through the hole. And I'm not particularly talented at tying knots, so I'm just going to do a couple of square knots there. But that seems definitely very sturdy. So now we've got our release pin, and this is the bit that we're going to pull in order to launch our rocket once it's pressurized. Right, so here's the general idea. You've got your peg. This goes down into the dirt, and it sits there. You jam this into the ground, and this is just waiting for you, okay? Then you've got your bottle, right? And you've glued your little end cap on there. So you're going to want to fill your bottle up with water, and you get to experiment with how much water, but I did a little less than half, okay? Up to about there. And then you're going to take your, let's see here, this little piece, right? Set that on top. This is once you've got your water in there. And then use the pin to hold them together. So that's going to kind of keep the whole thing together. The pin's got a good amount of pinching force, so that's not going to fall off, right? So you're going to keep your bottle upright, and you're going to take your bicycle pump. I just have this kind of small bicycle pump. Okay, and it really helps if your pump has a pressure gauge on it. This one is, it's got PSI and bars. So and you get to experiment with how much pressure you use too. I feel like I got not very much, about maybe 11 PSI, and the rocket really took off. So you've got my bicycle pump here. It has 2 connectors, but the connector that we want to use is this larger top connector, and this is the standard connector that you'd see on like bicycle tires. Okay, so while keeping the bottle upright, you're going to press your bicycle connector, the air connector there, down on top of the little peg that's sticking out of that top piece, and then we push the lever down like this, and you can see how that holds in place, and that's really firmly gripping onto there now. Okay, and at this point it's okay to turn the bottle upside down, because that's what we need for the rocket to take off, and also for it to fasten into the base which you have on the ground. And you can see how this thing has a flat side and a curved side, and this thing it's curved inside, so you want that to slot in place. I'm just gonna rotate this like that so it's facing the right direction, and then see how that just presses in there and holds in place. So at this point you're almost ready to go. You'll take your bicycle pump and you'll pressurize it, and you get up to whatever pressure is best. I'd start small, work your way up big. Beyond a certain threshold, your glue line will break or your bottle will pop, and you don't want that. So pump it up, get a good pressure, and then when you're ready, you pull the string, stand at the end of the string so you're a safe distance away. When you pull the string, of course when it's full of water and pressure, it'll take off. But that is the idea behind the water bottle rocket. And when everything goes well, and when everything's working properly, it looks a little something like this.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
All right, liftoff, and the clock has started.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here. This is Houston. Say again, please. Oh, Houston, we've had a problem.
Tower clear.
I feel for a liftoff, and the clock has started.
This is a new and strange environment first. It's suddenly finding yourself in orbit.